Hey everyone, this is Mason Hutchison, and welcome back to Herb Rally, your daily herbal podcast. We come out with new episodes about 5 days a week, so be sure to tune in often. Our goal for the show is to help you along your herbalist journey no matter what stage you're at. We have over 588 episodes, so feel free to peruse those episodes, and you're bound to find something of interest. Today's episode is with my good buddy Kyle Denton. He's an herbalist based out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We just moved to Wisconsin, so hoping to hang out with Kyle even more. But we went and visited him in his herb shop with him and his wife, and they gave us a tour of their herb shop is called Tippecanoe Herbs, and you could check out that video on our YouTube channel. I'll leave a link to that in the show notes. But today's episode is actually just 10 Ask an Herbalist questions with Kyle. And basically, these were all questions that the YouTube audience, the Herb Rally YouTube audience, left for us in our last Herb Rally updates video. That was our Midwestern goodbye. But basically, there was about 70 or 80 submissions, and Kyle just chose 10 of those questions that he really liked. And so what you're going to hear today is his answers to those questions. I think there's a lot of great value in this episode. I've probably heard it honestly like 3 or 4 times now, just by editing the YouTube video and whatnot. So we actually broke down these 10 questions into individual YouTube videos, which I'll leave a link to those each in the show notes. So that way, if you just want to look at one, listen to one particular question, you could just go straight to that answer. And honestly, eventually I'll release all the individual answers on the podcast as well, because why not? So yeah, I'd say there's like a wide range of questions in here, and each one is about, anywhere from like 7 to 10 minutes long. So I'd say Kyle goes fairly in depth. I really like his approach to herbalism. I'm really hoping you do as well. If you'd like to learn more about Kyle and his work, you could go to tippecanoeherbs.com. Also wanted to let you know that Kyle and Tippecanoe Herbs has an upcoming interactive online Foundations of Herbal Medicine and Medicine Making 7-month course. It looks like they actually have an early bird sale going on right now for $125 off, so that's pretty awesome. I'll leave a link to that in the show notes as well. But basically what you're going to be covered is the foundational models of energetics from these perspectives, the 6 tissue states of Western herbalism, the 3 doshas of Ayurveda, and the new biology of a coherent biofield terrain. So there's also lots of medicine making. You'll also get some anatomy and physiology. But yeah, like I said, I will leave a link to that in the show notes. Definitely check out their upcoming online Foundations of Herbal Medicine and Medicine Making coming up in April. And again, there's an early bird sale going on right now. So before we get into the show, I also want to read a written review from Apple Podcasts. And this is another 5-star review written by the Lavender Sprig. And Lavender Sprig says, absolutely my favorite herbal podcast. If I could only have one podcast on a desert island, this would be it. There's something for every level of herbalist from a wide range of speakers. My only complaint, not really, is that the back catalog is so extensive and there are so many episodes I want to listen to over and over that I feel like I will never be caught up. That's pretty funny, actually. Yeah, in the intro lately, I've been saying how many episodes, and I say over 588 episodes, and yeah, and now that it's a daily show, the list, the episodes just keep growing and growing. Of course, sometimes there's reruns like yesterday's episode, but yeah, I could understand the frustration in that, but I guess that is a good problem to have. The material never ends. And the way I look at it too with Herb Rally, the podcast, is not everyone is going to love every single episode because there is such a wide variety. I suspect that a lot of you see a certain speaker come on and they're like, oh, that's the one I want to listen to. And then just skip a whole bunch of the other ones. So that's kind of how I look at it. We're trying to create a podcast and a resource that a wide variety of herbalists would really appreciate, and sometimes, potentially even expand their view on herbalism and listen to different points of view and whatnot. So that's the goal, and it sounds like, based on these reviews that I've been reading, that's what we're accomplishing. So thanks again, Lavender Sprig. Really appreciate that review, the very, very kind review. And if you, dear listener, have a moment, please go ahead and head to Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast player you use and leave some sort of written review or star ranking. Really helps us out, and I love reading the reviews, so thank you so much. Last but not least, I want to shout out the Herb Rally Schoolhouse. This is our membership area, and it's one of the best ways that you could help support the Herb Rally podcast. In fact, one of the things that Amanda and I have been thinking of is, should we start in the Herb Rally Schoolhouse releasing podcast episodes totally ad-free and pre-roll free, like what I'm doing right now. So I think that's what we're gonna do. I think we're gonna add a component to the Herb Rally Schoolhouse where we don't have or we have ad-free podcast episodes. That would be another really fun addition to the Herb Rally Schoolhouse. In the meantime, we've got a lot of cool classes in there. We're definitely well over 30 classes in the Herb Rally Schoolhouse. We just came out with a couple classes with Kyle Denton, who you're going to hear today. He takes us on a field trip and teaches us all about Monarda, about a 30-minute class on Monarda, a video class with downloadable audio as well. If you want to help support the show, consider becoming an Herb Rally Schoolhouse member. It's only $10 a month, and you could use coupon code PODCAST at checkout to get your first 30 days for free. Check it out, see if it's something you enjoy. There's also cool herbal community discount codes in there for companies and whatnot, herbal companies. So really appreciate all the support from our 200 plus members. Huge shout out to our members. So thank you so much. And thanks to you for listening to the Herb Rally podcast. I will talk to you tomorrow. All right. Take care. Enjoy today's episode. Bye. A little bit of housekeeping before we get into the show. The content in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to cure, diagnose, treat, or prevent any disease. This information has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. We are not doctors, nor do we play one on the internet. Please seek advice from a qualified healthcare professional. Okay, MC Calico, take it away.
Yeah. Smoking herbal blends. We need some mullein and some kush, my brethren. While listening to Herb Rally podcast again. Herbalism at its finest with Mason Hutchinson. Yeah.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Herb Rally Q&A. Ask an herbalist. Ask them anything. Ask them anything you wanted. I'll be the herbalist. My name is Kyle Denton from Tippecanoe Herbs. You might remember me from previous Herb Rally episodes. Mason and Amanda, they came to the shop that I have, toured my shop. We did some herb walks together. We did some medicine making tutorials. So that's me. I'm the herbalist that does all those things. I have the herb shop. I have a school where we teach people herb stuff, herbalism and health. Background in Ayurvedic medicine, traditional Western herbalism. And we also make all of our own medicine. So I'm always doing herbal stuff, doing clinical assessments as well, all the things, all the herbal things, research as well. So this will be good. We got some good questions. We got some great questions, and we're going to go kind of by starting with some of those. What should I say here? I should let you know about the production quality. I'm doing this in a different way than you might be used to seeing some Herb Rally stuff. One of the reasons why is because Mason and Amanda, with their very nice high-tech equipment, they were going to come and meet me, and we were going to have a nice interview, super high definition, great audio, all of the bells and whistles. And then guess what? Bad weather, bad timing. And so here I am. I'm going to go alone. I'm doing my own thing. Now I'm in a different country. Hopefully everything translates all well and everything like that. But if you're expecting the super high definition stuff, sorry, you're just going to get regular definition. And that's probably good, because I don't want you to see all of my wrinkles and blackheads and things like that anyway. Okay. I'm in Italy right now. I'm in northern Italy. Normally I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but my wife's family is from Italy. My wife is from northern Italy, and we're here visiting family and doing our winter thing, just nurturing our spirit in towards the solstice, when that's the appropriate time to have your consciousness be underground, I guess you could say. So I'm in a basement in Italy, in a different country, nurturing my spirit, extracting myself from my work physically, and working and operating in a different way, putting those intentions out there. So like I said, we're close to the solstice as I record this, the winter solstice, that is. And close to the new year. Christmas has passed, New Year. We're in that week between New Year's and Christmas, which is always a great time to ask an herbalist anything. So let's jump right in. I have, let's see, I'm going to start. I have some questions here that Mason has sent me, and I highlighted some of my favorite ones. So we'll start with some of these. Okay. And I'll take some breaks, and we'll patch it together and make it look like a nice, smooth production. How does that sound? Okay, cool. The first one comes from Jamie Geister, or is it Geister? Geister. Let's say Geister, because we're close to Germany right now. The question is, what is your favorite aromatic herb combo right now? In parentheses, huge fan. Thanks for all that you do. Oh, well, you're welcome. I that may have been focused towards Mason and Amanda, but it was written here on my sheet, so I'm going to take it as a compliment as well. So this is an awesome question. Favorite herb aromatic combo right now? Okay, I teach classes on making zodiac incense. They're called Aromatics. This is courses that I've been doing, one for each sign. And this is really applicable to what's going on right now, because we're in this like liminal period between two signs. We're in between Sagittarius, and it's coming up. If you're into the astrology, that's the regular Western tropical astrology, we're currently in the sign of Capricorn. However, if you're more like me and you want to go out into nature and observe things as they are, without imposing all of this directions and man-made rules and stuff like that, that's called sidereal astrology. And what you see is what you get. And right now we're still in Sagittarius. We're on the 30th of December right now as I record this. So some people know, they say, oh yeah, Capricorn, Sagittarius. So anyway, what does that have to do with herbs and the aromatics? Well, a lot. And one of the ways that I can really appreciate aromatics is through applying them through a foundational lens all the way down, and looking at the astrological principles in the same way, bringing everything down to its elemental core, to its foundational base. Hot, cold, damp, dry, earth, air, fire, water. We have those signs that are represented in the zodiac as well as in the herbal world, and we can extrapolate them and make sense of them, and then overlap them with combinations. And it actually becomes a really great way of learning things together, multiplying our knowledge of two things at once, let's say astrology and herbalism. So in my Aromatics course for Sagittarius, I used frankincense because Sagittarius is a sign of vision, of moving. It's the fire sign that can't be stopped. It's mutating, it's changing, it's going. So it's about action and moving in all these different places. That's why I went to a different country. But think about the herbs that opened up the exchange of ideas and culture all across the world. So the spice road herbs, the herbs that people would they would offer to other travelers in exchange for ideas, or people would come in with their own ideas and they'd say, I want to buy some of those. All of those herbs to me are symbolic of Sagittarius. So Sagittarius herbs are the type of plants that I would say have like a fiery quality, and that could be seen, moving through the world. So frankincense, clove, cinnamon, rooibos, that's my incense blend for our Sagittarius blend. And it's fantastic. Really nice for this time of year. You know, you have something that's reminiscent of, I don't know, a Catholic mass. If you, I'm still recovering from my childhood Catholic mass, but sometimes every once in a while I feel that frankincense is not just, it's not just for the, you know, Catholics. It's many cultures revere this beautiful scent of citrusy, let's say, tears of a tree crying out in pain. Oh, it's hurt me. So it makes these little resin balls that are so aromatic and wonderful, and it combines really well with those, I don't like, chai warming spices. But I've been rolling and I've been working on my course for the Capricorn, and the tropical people will be like, we're in Capricorn. And the Capricorn is a sign of earth, and it's the cardinal earth sign. So it's like first earth. Capricorn is the mountain goat. So it's going up, it's up and up and up. So it's got this alpine kind of quality to it. And my Capricorn blend, and I started rolling these incense and lighting these, and I'm really feeling like we're entering into the Capricorn season with this smell. And so this is my current favorite between these two aromatic combo. And in my Capricorn blend, I'm using vetiver, which is, I would say, a very earthy plant. It's roots of a buffalo grass. So grounded. It's got oak moss, which grows in old forest. So there's another earthy scent and quality in plant. And I almost said plant, but it's a lichen. It's a combination of a lot of things, really. And it's got wintergreen and sweet birch. Oh my gosh, it's so awesome. It is one of the best incense I make. Sweet birch. It's got some hydrosol and essential oils of sweet birch and wintergreen, and it smell like the cold. It smells like if Father Christmas was like smoking a cigarette of some kind, and you're like, what is that? And he's just like, and he just like hands you, he's like, here, you want to drag, and you take a puff, and it's like all wintergreen and birch and oak moss. You're like, whoa, this is crazy. You're smoking this, like, ooh, feels so cold and earthy and grounded. So it's really nice because it's grounding. Oh, it's winter, you know, like the Vata season, the wind, the air, everything is so expansive. It's nice to have some groundedness to it, but also this primal earth, something that can change, you know? So those are my favorite aromatic herb combos right now. Our second question comes from Andy Insko. And the question is, what do you find to be the most versatile herb in your practice and why? Yarrow. That was easy. Yarrow. I've been using yarrow so much lately. And here's a few reasons why. Because it grows very, very abundantly in my garden, and it just kind of takes over a lot of areas. And so I am the type of gardener that I'm like, let them do their thing. I'm the kind of parent that's like, let them figure it out. It's okay. And I feel the same way with my garden too. I don't give it much discipline, much to the chagrin of my wife, who really wants to see things nice and pretty and tidy. And I'm like, yarrow, it's okay. It's okay. It popped up over there. We're going to use it. And so I make a lot of medicine because it's really telling me to, basically. It's telling me to. And so that's one of the practical reasons why I use it a lot. And another practical reason why, and here's another thing too. I want to kind of correct my language a little bit and maybe offer this for some of the future questions and future Ask Herbalist things. That is, I'm trying to get away, and I have been for years, with thinking about herbs and uses. Now it's like a very simple semantic switch to say, what is this herb used for? What is this herb good for? Instead, let's speak about the virtues of these herbs, and the switch that happens, this semantic switch, it offers us an idea of not so much it's about commercialization of these things. It's about building a relationship with our natural world and viewing, all of God's creation as important, I wouldn't say entities, but important helpers, with their own virtues that can offer us teaching, instead of I know what I need and I'm going to grab it and use it. An example that I always give is like when I'm building a relationship with, let's say, you, the viewer, and I say, what are you good for? What is your use? You know what I mean? It sounds kind of weird, doesn't it? It sounds kind of harsh. Like I have this great authority that I'm trying to figure out if you're good for something or if you're useful. And so that's why I'm kind of separating my answer in the practical, as in like there is an abundance of this plant and the virtues, and as well as saying there are many things that this plant can teach me. And so this is one of the things that I'm trying to do with my language, and I offer that to you too, to do the same, not to think of plants as uses, but to think of them as their virtues. And what is a good plant for X disease? Instead, think of what companion would I call on in a case of this? In the same way that I'm like, I'm going to go to a movie. Which one of my friends? Oh, I'm definitely not going to bring that one friend of mine. I know they're just going to throw popcorn and stuff. It's going to be really embarrassing. And I'm not going to bring my other friend because that person would be offended by violence and stuff like that. And it's the kind of movie I want to see with just one type of friend. You know what I mean? So you start to think about certain situations and scenarios. And when you have that relationship, then boom, all of a sudden you can see your friend Yarrow when somebody is explaining something about a particular matter, about a condition that they have, and all of a sudden, I'm thinking about my friend Yarrow. And so one of the reasons why I also like to work with instead of use. I like to work with Yarrow as like my most versatile herb, is because to me it is the most versatile herb that there is. It's so great at so many things. I love it for its digestive ability, its ability to stimulate bile, its ability to work with the liver, to warm the stomach, for its ability, the astringent quality, to tighten and tone the mucosal tissues and the lining of the gut, for example, and like leaky gut. I love it for the way that Yarrow works on the blood, in particular the lymphatic system in the blood, the changing of the capillaries into the lymphatic system. It really likes to target the periphery. It likes to target the lower abdominal area. So I work with Yarrow in fertility, and I work with it for colon problems, and I work with it for fevers and all kinds of anything where I feel like there's a blockage in the blood or there needs to be some movement. And it seems to be, in my opinion, really suitable for every body type. It's bitter, so it's cooling. So there's some people who are really cold that might not be suited for cooling plants, but it's also aromatic and quite warming at the same time. So it's cool. Its bitterness and its warmness kind of work together for somebody who might be too hot or too cold. It's stimulating in the way that it stimulates metabolic processes, but it doesn't have a stimulating effect so much on the mind or the nervous system. In fact, in my opinion, it has a way of relaxing the nervous system due to its bitterness, its bitter alkaloids. I like the way that Yarrow works in a tincture. I like the way that it works in a tea. I like the way that it works in a salve. So not only is it the most versatile herb in my practice, I can put it into a whole bunch of different things. And that's something I'm going to cover in another question coming up here too. Achillea, the wounded warrior plant too. So here's another thing that I've been, that a lot of people have been asking me about and coming to me for help with lately is something that I would say has to do with like an ancestral wound or something, a deeper type of trauma. And in this case, it's not so much like we're working through the blood or we're working through the liver. It's more of a working through consciousness, working through emotional connection, working through the subtle etheric layers. And Yarrow is so great at that. It's very, very protective. I also love, I hang Yarrow at the entrance to my shop upside down. So in order to come through the door of my shop, you have to pass beneath the Yarrow. And I call, and before I harvest it, I tell it, like, as it's growing, like, you're going to grow up to be the security system for my shops and also for my house and stuff like that. So make sure that you get like really good at repelling unwanted, negative, malefic energy. And so I think that herbs work really well when they have a goal, when they have a leader to tell them, this is what you're going to do. And they go do it. So there's been plenty of times when somebody comes into they open the door, and you could sense when somebody comes into a room that they don't have good intent. At least I can. I'm sensitive in that way. And I really, really, really try hard to maintain the psychic integrity of my spaces, including my shop. Like, I work very hard at that. So when something comes in that I can feel is like a perturbance, disturbance in the force, right? I'm like, oh, they'll stop underneath the Yarrow, and then they'll just kind of take a look around, and then they're like, I'm out of here. I've seen that happen over and over. But sometimes I'm like, maybe they thought that they were going to like the massage place that's like next door, or the nail place that's next door. I don't know. But Yarrow works great for that. I love it for so many things. Such a good friend. And I carry it in my first aid kit wherever I go somewhere where there isn't first aid, because I will call upon Yarrow and its virtues to stop bleeding and hopefully, save a life if it has to someday. It's done that. It has historical. It's definitely been used like that in history. So, Achillea millifolia, the 1,000-leafed botanical of Achilles, the warrior. Our third question comes from Lindsay Desrochers. Lindsay ask, what are some of your favorite herbs to work with in the wintertime for folks who live in places who have cold, snowy winters? I live in a place like that, and I'm not in a place like that right now. I'm in a nice kind of Mediterranean place. It's still kind of chilly, but that's why I got away for a little while. I work with herbs for winter time very frequently, and so I have some favorites. Let me tell you about them. I like herbs that will stimulate the circulation, and that's where I'd like to start. Just herbs that, use your imagination from here. The ones that I'm starting to become kind of a new century Thompsonian, and that I really understand a lot of, I really understand Samuel Thompson, the herbalist from the 1700s, his philosophy very well when it starts to get cold, because his whole philosophy was about improving the circulation and allowing and improving the vitality in the core and allowing the circulation to flow freely so that there's multiple pathways for healing outwards and coming in. And for me, as a student of ether physics, I also comprehend the difference between energy being generated from a temperature differential. So I think it's really, really, really important to have something that maintains the open connectivity between our core, which has a warm temperature, and the differential being our periphery. and not to have that potential for an electrostatic and electromagnetic movement of this blood and energetic exchange back to the core to be blocked or dampened in any way, and to have that open and free. So I work a lot with herbs that open up the circulation and tone the vasculature. So I also think that this is a starting point for me for what I would consider the immune system, which I put in quotes. It's not really an immune system. It's not like something that you can extract and be like, aha, that's the immune system. Like you can with, the nervous system, for example, or the digestive system. There's isolation of these systems, but immune system is just kind of a theoretical thing. And in my opinion, it's really important to have that open and free from the core to the periphery. So bilberry leaf, bilberry. I make a tea called Cold Feet. It's got bilberry leaf, bilberries. What else has it got? Cinnamon. It's got some, yarrow again. I wish I would have thought about looking at this one. I like cayenne a little bit. Of course, the new age Thompsonian would say that. Yeah, I would. Especially because the question was for folks who live in places who have cold, snowy winters. But if I could add on to that question, it would be like, and for folks who are cold, Vata type people like myself, I'm a kind of a cold person. If you felt my hands right now, you'd be like, "Ooh, yeah, they're kind of cold." And so I like a little bit of cayenne. So maybe not would I offer that as a suggestion to people who are already generating a lot of heat, the Rajasic types of people that would be the Pitta type of folks. Instead, I would say like cayenne for, us hard to warm people. And then I like fatty broths. And then I know this isn't an herb, but it's a herbal remedy. It's in the herbalist repertoire. And in a fatty broth, like I'm talking about bone broths, like with bones and bone marrow. And I'm not talking about like the, if you're going to make a vegan version of that and it's going to be like a mushroom broth, it's got to have a lot of fat. So add a lot of fat to it and then throw in your bone broth ingredients, onion skins or onions, garlic, the things that you're peeling away from your vegetables, put them into a bag, put them in your freezer every few days when you're making a broth. That's what I do in my house, make it every few days. You pull it out, you throw it into the pot along with your carcass or carcai, if you have multiple carcasses, and mushrooms and stuff like that. And that's one of my favorite things to just drink and sip as a tea is a nutritive tea with fats and minerals and nutrition. And it's great. And I think that should answer that question for now. So great question. Very relevant. Okay. Here's a question that comes from, I'm laughing at the name, Zerp Blurred. Zerp Blurred ask, tea or tincture? Is it just a matter of preference, or what are the pros, cons of each? Awesome question. Okay, this is why I have a huge shop filled with all different kinds of preparations, because when people come to see me or when I'm working one-on-one with clients, I have to think about like not only the right herbs for the people and what they, like let's match up this herb or this formulation for these people, but really what will they take to be compliant? I used to work in the dental industry and people would ask, what is better? The floss that you like wrap around your fingers, those little floss toothpick things that have like the tiny little like violin string, or a water pick? And the answer is whatever you're going to use. That's the answer. It's a matter of practicality, in my opinion. And so that's what I ask people, because I ask them this. Would you prefer a tea? Would you prefer a tincture? There's actually people who like, and by tea, I mean, like, we're talking about, am I thinking you need a tea therapeutically? Like, you need a therapeutic dose of this plant. And the only way that it's going to be a therapeutic dose is if you make a decoction, you know, and you're going to heat that back up and you're going to drink it 3 times a day. Do you see yourself doing that? Some people know right away. No way. There's no way I'm going to do that. I will definitely make a cup of tea a couple times a week when I have a chance to sit down and stuff like that. But good. All right. It's great to know these things. I think that this is really the answer. It is just a matter of preference. I could think of a great nervous system formula that's made in a tincture. You know, I make it in a tincture because I know that the plants, you know, we'll reduce it a little further here. I know that the plants that are in this formula are going to be extremely bitter. They're gonna make you shiver and shake, and they're gonna quake out all of the nervousness from your body. And you're gonna say, "Whoa, that was gross." But luckily for me, it was only 15 drops, so that's done. Or are you gonna? Some people are like, "No, I don't want to take a tincture. I'm really connected to tea. I'm fine with tea. I'm fine with bitter teas. Actually, I drink motherwort and bugleweed and blue vervain all the time." Okay. All right. If you're into that, then actually I think that a tea would probably be better in that case, because that's what I really think a lot of the medicine is not just the plant offering its all of its different ways, from the subtle to the gross, on how it can be of service to our body and to our needs of our conditions. But really, the relationship that we have to the medicine, how are we taking it? Is it something that we just ordered offline or online, I mean, and just, you know, I read something somewhere from some random blog and this is the plant? Or did I go through whatever I needed to go through to like really research, and maybe I'm getting a recommendation specifically from an herbalist, qualified herbalist, who is like looking me up and down and doing all the assessments that the herbalists do, and they come up with this formula. Or maybe, you know, like really getting down to it and being like, oh, okay, I'm going to make that myself. I'm going to grow the plant. I'm going to harvest the plant. I'm going to put the plant into a pot of tea. Or maybe skip those first 2 steps. But I'm like, in other words, it's not just a matter of preference. The pros and cons to me really come down to these subtle experiences, because I think I would claim that the subtle informs the gross. Or in other words, what is material was beget from spirit. So along that process of being an idea and having the emotional connection to something improves our quality. This is how the what's it called when you take something that's fake, and like a sugar pill. My gosh, I'm blanking here. You're saying it. You're saying it. I know you're saying it. And it's going to come to me. This is how that thing works. Oh man. What's it called? Doesn't matter. It's going to come to me in a second. I was in a train of thought and I lost it. Anyway, great question. The answer is it is to me a matter of preference. There are pros and cons. I think it's really important to explain these pros and cons, to know the plants, to have somebody that knows the plants. I can read all like I see people coming in all the time and they're looking on blogs, and their blogs are telling them about this plant. They need this plant because it's blue vervain and they have this body type and they have this mental mindset, and they come in and they're like, I want an ounce of blue vervain. And I'm there and I'll say, have you ever worked with this plant before? You plan on making a tea with this or a tincture? No, a tea. Have you ever tried it? Have you ever tasted it? You want to taste a little right now? you want to see if you really want to do it this way? Because I have the tincture, or I could teach you how to make this 1 ounce into a tincture. I just don't want you to be disappointed when you are making this medicine that you feel really connected to, and it's disgusting. Good question. I'm still blanking on the name of that stupid. What is the word? Placebo.
Pardon the interruption. The show will be back on shortly. People will sometimes say, Mason, how can I support you in your work? There's so much free content on Herb Rally, and it'd be nice to give back somehow. I used to say, please rank and review the show. It means the world to us, which is still great. Please rank and review in your podcast player of choice. But now I'd say becoming an Herb Rally Schoolhouse member is one of the best ways you can support our small family herbal business. If you've ever heard of Patreon, it's kind of like that. Basically, you're directly supporting our work by spending $10 a month and becoming a member of the Herb Rally Schoolhouse, or patron, if you will. Membership includes exclusive content, and we release new content each week. And the library of available content just keeps growing over time with a variety of teachers and classes, which means the schoolhouse just keeps offering more, adding more value to you as you continue on your herbalist journey. There's also a bunch of discounts for cool herbal businesses in there as well, plus some other features to the membership. So if you'd like to check it out and get your first 30 days for free, you can use coupon code PODCAST when you register at herbrally.com/schoolhouse. Again, that's herbrally.com/schoolhouse and use coupon code PODCAST at checkout to get your first 30 days for free. Thanks so much for your time and support. Now back to the show.
All right, let's move to our next question here. We have Eldest Millennial ask, thanks so much for all that you do. I'm learning a ton. I feel fortunate that you have created this resource. That's for Mason and Amanda. I feel fortunate too. The question to you is, how does a newbie to herbalism recognize less than ethical practitioners? That is, how do you find a good in-person teacher? Oh, my goodness. What an awesome question. I wish more and more students would really think about this. More people to use their discernment in this way. Discernment. That's how. Discernment. How do you build discernment? Okay, first of all, let me back up. Let me just pave this question foundational with I'll just state that I have a built-in trigger for this kind of topic. I really do. I can feel it getting close to that trigger point. I'm in control of it, but it's not triggered, but it's there. And that's because I myself challenge what I would consider unethical practitioners. And I find myself kind of on the outside periphery of some of the more clustered circles in the field, which is fine. That's where I am. And that's because of I also recognize these things, right? So how do I do that? How would somebody else do that? How would they challenge them? Learn some basic logical fallacies. I think this is a really good practice for not just your question, but for learning information in general. Learn basic logical fallacies, ad hominem, straw man, red herring, just there's about 10 of them that you could really learn inside and out. Recognize when people are making claims, and if you ask them to support their claim and they give you a logical fallacy, they'll make fun of you, or they'll say that's what those are the kind of questions that crazy people have, or something like that. Then you know that you're dealing with less than ethical practitioner? This is a philosophical question, really, at its core, because that's one of the three branches of philosophy. You have ethics, you have the ontology, metaphysics, epistemology. And so I am the type of person that is very interested in somebody's epistemology and ontology and their metaphysics. So I will also basically try to find out what those are in a practitioner as well. I think that's really, really important, because you might have a very ethical practitioner, but really doesn't have a basis for the way that they understand how they get information, or they can explain. They don't have an answer for the nature of other things. I think this is all really relevant. Just learning the philosophy of teachers. And I think some big red flags for that would be, yeah, like I said, somebody uses a logical fallacy when they answer your question. Somebody makes claims that they won't back them up. They won't offer any evidence or proof to their claims. They're not willing to change their mind or listen. I think a really important part of learning is the honesty and the humbleness that comes with learning that you weren't doing something right. So a lot of times people have their identities. I've noticed in herbalism and many fields that people have their identities really entwined with what they think they know. And when you challenge that, it to them feels like you're challenging them, like their identity, instead of, and this is a straw man fallacy. I'm not associated me with my beliefs. I can have beliefs and let go of them. It's not me. Nor am I associated with anybody who has these beliefs. It's not. So things like that. I think it's really, really important to learn your fundamental fallacies. Find them. Go. This is a really fun exercise. Really fun exercise. Learn 10 basic fallacies. Go onto any herbal forum on Facebook and spot them. Do some homework. You'll find a fallacy in every single post, whether it's in the post or the comments, and just note it. Just put it down. Just be like, there's a straw man. There's an appeal to authority. There's this, there's that. And recognize that. And if any of those people are potential teachers, then maybe ask them about it. Ask them why they, if they continue to use those fallacies, then that's a red flag, and move on. And the second part of the question is, how do you find a good in-person teacher? Yes, that's what I'm talking about. It's really, let's make a call back to learning in person. There's something that happens when you're in a group of people, when you make the trip down to the herb walk and you're there and you're walking with people. There's this osmosis, there's this greater thing that happens, that it occurs, this oral lineage that comes through the teacher standing before the plant. There's just something about being immersed in the moment, in the physical moment with other people, that is not, that can't be quantified in a value. I think it's extremely important to learning herbalism. I know that we're like moving into the age of Aquarius, where you could be your own teacher and go on YouTube and learn how to fix a car and, deliver a baby or whatever. But I'm joking, sort of. But I really think that there's something big time about being in person, because herbalism is a community. It's about the community, the relationship that we have with our herbs that are present before us. It's about having a community of other people that are like-minded, that we could bounce ideas off of. There's also something about hiding behind the anonymousness of our online persona that allows the less than ethical practitioners to thrive and say things because they're not actually seeing the effects or able to look somebody in the eye that's challenging them. This is why I think local government is the only form of government that works. Blah, blah, blah. But I think it's how do you find a good in-person teacher? You gotta go. You just gotta go interview them. You call them. You say, "Can I come to your next herb walk? I want to study with you. How do I do that?" You nip at their heels. The people that are my apprentices now and that work with me are people that have been asking me over and over and over and over and over. Can I work with you? Can I work with you? Can I learn from you? Can I go to your herb walk? They sign up for all my herb walks. And I'm like, okay, that's the type of person that I really want on my team. I think the same would be just do your due diligence, learn the fallacies, get in person with them. If they're blowing you off and they're like, no, I don't have time to talk to you about this stuff, blah, 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 that's a red flag. You can move on. Herb Rally has a really great resource, I think, of Herbalist in all the different areas. And you know what? When I started studying herbalism, I drove across 2 state lines to learn. And I started studying with Jim McDonald. And so I would camp. And there's, like I said, there's something about making the sacrifice and being present and going for it and removing yourself from these other things and just really going to, it's like the Kung Fu movies where they're like, they're outside of the door of Shangri-La and they're like, please let me in. Like, it's like, I really want to learn with you. And then like, they're like, master's like, let me think about it, and then like closes the door for like another full moon cycle or something like that. And then they go on to be like the best Kung Fu, whatever person in the world. So those stories resonate because there's a truth to it. It's true. Make the sacrifice, go for it. Here's something that I want to say too, that I know isn't going to land with a lot of people, but I think it's really important to me. And I think that it is also, I think everything is a learning experience. And that means even our failures, even the times that went wrong, even the times that we studied with an herb teacher that turned out to be a totally unethical shithead. I think there's a lot of value in that. I'm not a victim to those times. I'm actually extremely grateful and blessed to have gone through hardships, and I take value from those hardships. And I recommend that type of mindset, leaving behind the victim mentality and moving into everything is a lesson, including the hard things, and asking and searching in the ways that you do through meditation, through prayer. What is this trying to teach me? What is this trying to teach me? What is this very difficult situation and this less than ethical practitioner trying to teach me? Think about how far herbalism has come because of, like, as a field, because of less than ethical practitioners in the medical arena. So many people come through underneath the Yarrow in my doorway because they were wronged, and now they're on the right path, and they wouldn't have seen that path before. And they're grateful. They're grateful to be on it. And so I also encourage that type of thought, that cultivate discernment, learn your fallacies, think of everything as a lesson, and call out the inconsistencies when they occur. I think this is extremely important for our mental health, to call out inconsistencies. It doesn't have to be fighting words. You can just point things out that's wrong. And if the other person takes that as a fighting word, that's their problem. Anyway, great question. Trigger avoided, but feel a little bit looser on that one too. Awesome question. Go find yourself an in-person teacher. I think it's really, 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 really valuable. Even if that teacher is your grandma, even if that teacher is the group that you start, and you don't necessarily recognize yourself as the teacher, but you recognize that it's really important to be in person with other people and learning together. It's really fun. It's really important. Our next question from Catholic Doula Channel says, what herbs are best for postpartum recovery? This is an awesome question because my wife and I, earlier this year, had a home birth. And I got to become the doula in a sense, like the husband doula. Not calendula, like calendula, but we used that too. And it was a great, great honor. It was a great honor for me to be able to take what I know as an herbalist and as a man and be of service to my wife, a woman, a mother in a vulnerable state. And I think that this is such a great question. I could feel my heart fluttering just thinking about what a special time that was. Okay. So immediately after the child was born, like seconds later, we administered 2 milliliters of Angelica tincture. And Angelica, we did a really cool herb walk with Herb Rally on Angelica and the signatures of Angelica and how it is really helpful for loosening the placenta and how you see that in the signatures. So Angelica loosened the placenta. Placenta comes, that's after birth. And then now we got to stop the bleeding. So we administered some shepherd's purse tincture and homeopathic arnica. And so this was like ground zero, moment after birth, right? Baby goes to mama, everyone's crying, next day, next few days. This is typically where a doula would show up or continue the treatment, and probably more relevant to the question. And so we were thinking about a couple of things. Supporting breast milk, supporting the reducing the amount of bleeding, and supporting sleep/nervous system recovery, all these types of things. So I would say, like, I don't know, it's not polite to say typical birth, but a birth without multiple complications and all these things. Let's just talk about in that particular way. So I had some packs pre-made, and they had loose herbs. They were made in, like, you can do it in muslin cloths. They don't necessarily need to be packs, but I really like the packs. And they were going to be sitz baths / muslin cloths that you can use as a compress, as a compress onto the vaginal area. And then you could also wring them out and use them again and whatnot. So I found that the compresses were really good. And then what we actually did was we use tea bags from Rishi Tea, and they have these really long tea bags that are like that long. And so they could fit a ton of herbs in them. And they're the only tea bags that I've ever found that are like organic, biodegradable hemp, no microplastics, no crap or creepy stuff in them. Like every single tea bag I've ever researched has always had like something that's like a little creepy, whether it's bleached or whether it's like non-organic or whatever. So I really like these Rishi tea bags because of all of that is good. And packed them with a bunch of herbs, stapled them, using them to make a compress, using them to make a sitz bath combination, blah, blah, blah. And in those, we would put calendula, I would put shepherd's purse, I would put yarrow, So calendula, shepherd's purse, yarrow. I'll start with shepherd's purse and yarrow are there for the hemostatic. They're stringing the excess bleeding. Yarrow is helping also with bruising and any other type of traumatic damage to the tissues. Same with calendula, but calendula doesn't necessarily help so much with the bleeding as it does with helping to heal wounds. Okay, where was I? All right, calendula, shepherd's purse, yarrow. Plantain, along with calendula, is really going to help with healing, stimulating tissue regeneration. We know all about those as herbalists, and even beginning herbalists, the value of plantain and calendula in wounds. Rose, because it's lovely, because rose also is kind of astringent, and some lavender buds and some chamomile. I really like using chamomile. I really like working with chamomile. Always I'm so programmed to take, consume. It's going to take a while to deprogram. I've been working on it for years. So I really like working with chamomile when there is any need for healing wound as well. It's just very gentle. Let's see here. Okay, so that was in the compress. Those ratios were just some of this, some of that, some of this, some of that. Seemed to work. If you have a lot of bleeding, I would add a lot more shepherd's purse, and I would add a lot more yarrow. Okay, so and then we have a really, really awesome formula for breast milk enhancement. I have a couple of different things. I have a tea that's called Milky Way, and I have a churna, which is powdered herbs. You can just take a powdered herb and put it into a cup and drink it down. It's kind of chalky, and it's not as lovely as drinking a cup of tea. And that's called mother's milk. And the mother's milk is 3 herbs, and it's fenugreek and shatavari and fennel. And my tea has those as well, but it also has blessed thistle and red clover and some other things like that. And so many types of herbs that are galactagogues, or that have this action of enhancing breast milk production through either relaxing tension, or through the aromatic component, or through working on the hormonal level. And they work great. They work fantastic. I think it's really important to have something like that on hand and ready to go. And then also a salve of some kind, like an all-purpose healing salve without any essential oils. So make a really nice healing salve. There's, tons of recipes, even on Herbalist's channel. You could find calendulas, plantain, rose, chamomile, put them into a jar with some oil, make yourself a salve. That's going to be good for the baby's butt. That's going to be good for nipples. And you really want to make sure that there's no essential oils in there. So if you're putting it on nipples, that can make that can create something that's it alters the mother's smell. So things that keep a baby from latching are the unfamiliarity of the smell, or bitterness, anything like that. So having a nipple salve, having a baby butt salve, having a salve. Let's have a salve. A salve shares the same root word as save, as in salvation, salvator. So a salvation, having a salvation. And I thought you might appreciate that little factoid. Catholic Doula channel. Let's see here. What else was super important? Oh my gosh. It was earlier this year, but after 10 months of lack of sleep, I can barely remember. Should have wrote this one down. there was some things that I thought were extremely important, but I guess they weren't. So, and then also just nutrition, just nutritional things, nutritive herbs, and so on. Great question.
Hey everyone, it's Mason. Just a quick interruption from the show to let you know about our 13 herbal freebies. If you go to herbrally.com, on the navigation bar at the top of the page, you'll see a button that says freebies. Just click there and you'll sign up for our email newsletter. And in exchange, we're offering 13 herbal freebies. That's ebooks, webinars, videos, downloadable audio, and discounts to cool herbal companies. So if you'd like to check out these freebies as well as sign up for our email newsletter, we update you about current events, new monographs, new videos, etc. Just go to herbrally.com and click on the button at the top of the page that simply says freebies. Okay, that's it from me. Now back to the show.
Kate Corcoran asks, how would you use mugwort? How would we work with mugwort? What are the virtues of mugwort, you asked? Okay, this is really fun. This is a really fun question for me because over the last year and a half or so, there's been this trend on TikTok, which I don't have a TikTok, but I became aware of it because all of a sudden these teenagers would start coming to the herb shop. And they come in and they're like teenagers, so they're like got their pajamas and their slippers on, and like hair's all messy and stuff. And they're just like walk into the shop like this, and just like looking at their phone, and they're like looking around. They're really confused at what they're like, what is this place, but I know I'm supposed to be here for one thing. And so they're looking and they're all shy. You guys need any help with anything? No, just looking. And finally they come back up to the counter, they bring the jar of mugwort, and they'd say, I'd like some mugwort, please. And after a few teens would do this, I was like, how come everybody's coming in with mugwort, like asking for mugwort? What's going on here? They're like, there's this on TikTok, we're learning about how mugwort is good for astral travel. And I'm like, oh, really? It's good for astral travel? Yeah, it actually makes you travel astral. And I'm like, oh, interesting. Okay, cool. And so I'm like, so how do you plan on consuming this? And they're like, I never thought of that. And so after a few of those, I started recognizing this type of person right away. And we have an endearing term for them. We call them mugheads. So they're like, oh, there's a mughead coming in. I know what they're doing. And then so we just kind of save them the trouble to be like, hey, you looking for bulk herbs? You looking for mugwort? Yeah, it's over here. We sell it. We have it. And then we start pre-bagging it by the ounce. It's already bagged up as an ounce. And then talking to them about it, because on TikTok, they're just like, take it for astral travel. But then at the shop, they have an herbalist that can be like, all right, let me tell you all about mugwort. And sometimes they'd be like, oh, that was really informative. And other times they'd be like, oh my gosh, when will this old person shut up? Because I could go on and on. Oh man. So I'd be like, okay, you ever tried smoking? And so if you break the ice with that, with the mugheads, they're like, oh yeah, actually that's what I thought you. they're like kind of feigning like, oh, I wasn't gonna smoke it, but because I watched one of the TikToks and they're like, there's this legal herb, it's called mugwort. And so there was like a little bit of like guilt or something with the mugheads. They would come in, they're like, I don't know, is there a code word, that kind of thing. So smoke it. In fact, mugwort is very often harvested, and then as it's like drying, it will be wrapped up into a smudge bundle, and you can light that on one end and burn it. And because mugwort is a great aromatic plant, it also has a connection with regaining your psychic space. as a tool, as a wand, as a smudge stick. And so that's a great way. So let's start from the furthest, most astral version of mugwort and work our way into the body. Okay, so it's a great plant for dreaming, enhancing dreams. And how does that work? Well, the reductionist would say that I should say the reductionist in me would say, well, I think that, because we have a 90-minute sleep cycle, that every 90 minutes we go and we get into REM sleep or our dream sleep at the very end of the cycle, and then we get back and then it starts over again with alpha waves and blah, blah, blah. And by the end of that dream cycle, I think because our brain waves are really close to being in a wake state when they're in the dream state and then it stops. I think that because mugwort is very stimulating to the mind, that actually wake up for a split second and enough that you remember your dream and then you fall back asleep again. And so that's why you're like, oh yeah, it was like really remembering a lot of dreams. And the difference between that and not having mugwort at night would be like you dream, but you just don't wake up at the end of the dream, right? So you don't remember them as well. So I think that's one, the reductionist in me says that, but I also think that this is a very magical plant. It's named, it's botanically named after Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, who is sacred to the full moon. And the more masculine aspects of the divine feminine, or if you were looking at the yin yang symbol, it would be like the yin dot inside of, or it'd be the yang dot inside of the yin. That's what I think of mugwort kind of representing. It's like masculine within the feminine. The action principle within the receptive principle. And so for that, you could just put it into a little muslin cloth, put it under your pillow and sleep on it. You don't actually have to consume it at all. You could even draw it and dream about it. Like, I think that there's ways of communicating with plants that are so etheric and subtle that we can really channel them into our consciousness again, that the spiritual aspects beget the physical aspects. I really, really believe that. That's how I operate. That's part of my worldview. So anyway, if you want to skip ahead from the ethereal into the more physical aspects, you can make a tea. And so I would tell the kids, like, you can make a tea, but mugwort, while it's aromatic, it's also kind of bitter. So if you are you used to drinking bitter plants? Do you know what a bitter plant tastes like? So sip it first and see if you can enjoy it. See if you can enjoy the aspects of it. Smell it. Don't just, put it in there and then because I don't know. I have some teenage nephews. They're just like, consume, they don't even give a second thought to it. So I'm like, all right, try to like really make it a medicine, where you're taking a sip, little bit at a time. Mugwort is a great plant for, you can also make a tincture, and you could also make I've made oxymels with mugwort, and I've also made hydrosol and essential oils with mugwort. I use mugwort in our incense. I use it in the cancer, Astromatics for cancer. That is cancer sign, the sign of cancer, which is ruled by the moon. Some say mugwort is ruled by Venus. Okay, then I'll also put it in Libra at the same as well, which is what I do. What else? That's how I would use mugwort. You know what else I like mugwort in my garden? It grows like crazy. It takes over everywhere, but it also becomes a great habitat for the bunnies. I call them, because that's what my dog knows them as, bunnies. And there's another way for working with mugwort. When I see mugwort a lot, it's growing under bridges. So I think of it as kind of like a troll repellent. So there's a little gift for you. If you're working on the internet and you need to repel trolls, think about using some mugwort. Thinking about calling upon mugwort. Perhaps just put a little mugwort in your code or something like that. I don't know how the internet actually works. There you go. From one senior mughead on mugwort. All right, this next question comes from Wendy Mason. Hi, Wendy. Wendy asks, my question revolves around becoming a registered herbalist. What is the best approach to choosing a mentor? Thank you and happy holidays. Well, let's break this question up into a few parts. I know Mason said he was going to do a video on something like this. I'll just break it up a little bit. In America, where I work as an herbalist, there is no regulating body. So let's get one thing straight. There's no real such thing as a registered herbalist. There is a group of people that get together and they call themselves the American Herbalist Guild, but they're not given authority by the government or the state or anything like that in the same way that you would give authority to a licensing for a massage therapist. Okay. So it's just a group of people. They ask you for money. They put up some content. There's some value in getting together as a group, and they say that they register you as an herbalist, but they're really the registrating body. They're not. It's not actually. They're taking your application and they're giving it to the government, and then the government says, "Okay, you can be this." So it's kind of like if me and my buddies didn't know anything about pickleball, and we got together and we said, hey, we're going to be the American Pickleball Association, and you can't call yourself a pickleball player unless you're registered with us. Did you pay your dues? Okay, cool. You did. So now you get exclusive content on pickleball videos. We're going to show you these pickleball highlights. There's going to be pickleball tournaments hosted by us, and so on and so on. You can only go to the tournaments if you're registered with the American Pickleball Association. That's kind of the same exact thing as the American Herbalist Guild. Okay. And I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm just saying it is what it is. So a lot of people get it in their mind because there is this appeal to authority fallacy that in order to be an herbalist, in order to call myself an herbalist, I have to be a registered herbalist. However, I'm in Europe right now. I'm in Italy. And anywhere outside of America, in order to call yourself an herbalist, you have to get a master's degree in pharmacy and herbalism. So basically, the herbalist in Italy, when I go to the herb shops here, they're all wearing white coats. And all of the herbs are like boxes. They look like pharmaceuticals, except they're inside of it. There's like ginseng capsules or something like that. It's way different. And I like it that way. I don't like it this European way. I don't like regulating bodies. I don't like the government getting involved. I don't like the liability of having to go to jail because I heard my neighbor coughing and I said, hey, I'm growing some thyme. Would you like some thyme? Put some thyme into a pot and make a steam and smell it. And I think that'll help with your cough. If I said that over here, I would be practicing medicine without a license. Does that make sense? So in America, we have a really, really great thing where we can work outside of a medical system and keep it that way. And for those who want to band together for the purpose of creating a little bit of critical mass in areas of importance, where let's say the Herbalist Guild wants to petition to Congress or something on Congress is going to pass a law that's going to, somebody thinks it's going to hurt the industry or something like that. So having an herbalist skill that has a little bit more sway, but they're not recognized as a, a, a legislative body or anything like that. Okay. Nobody can come and take away your license for being an herbalist. Nobody can. Also, anything that's given to you as a certificate, you want to be a master herbalist or a registered herbalist, it's just arbitrary. It's all arbitrary. Okay. They make their own guidelines. So you go to a school, you might go to one school, and they, at the end of this class, and you fill out this teacher's test and everything like that, they'll give you a certificate that says you're now a certified herbalist. You go to my school, I don't do any testing. I teach you from day one that you've always been an herbalist and that you don't need to appeal to the authorities of anybody. So it's just a different mindset. So how do you feel? This is a good question. Like, do you feel confident and comfortable in calling yourself an herbalist? I think that this field has been, it works a lot on honor system. All right. So we kind of self-regulate. We don't like it when regular people that don't know anything about herbs, I shouldn't say regular people, but people who make claims about herbs that are incorrect because they didn't take the time to research them in the same way that people who work with herbs every day and work with people and herbs every day research things. And they call themselves herbalist, and they have a lot of sweat. So what's the best way to choosing a mentor? Look for people who have a lot of followers on Instagram, are really good looking, and no, I'm just kidding. Look for people who stay in honor. That's it. Stay in honor. What does that mean to you? What does it mean to stay in honor? Is it honorable to our field of herbalism that some people might say certain things, or allowed to be like calling themselves an herbalist and have these types of roles? Do they back up what they say? Do they create stains and tarnishing for the field? I think it's really important. The best approach is looking for people who stay in honor. That means not making claims unless they can back them up. And I call myself an herbalist because I can back it up. Somebody can call themselves an herbalist because they can back it up too. And I might work completely different than that other person. That other person might say, I'm an herbalist. And you might ask them, what makes you an herbalist? And they say, well, because I have a garden and I grow herbs that I take and I make into medicine for my family. And that makes me an herbalist. And I say, indeed it does. That's exactly right. Because they are stating their claim and they're staying in honor. And for me, it's a little bit different. It's a lot different, but that doesn't mean that they're not and I am. And so I guess the bottom line to that comes down to, this is a field of honor. So great question, because that means that you're on the right path asking these questions. Am I an herbalist yet? That would be a good question to ask thyself, and know thyself. And we'll piggyback that with this next question, which is related in a way, at least in my mind, or how I'm going to frame the answer. And that's from Tabitha L. Thanks for all you do. It is gold for a student herbalist like me. My question: what are the most important 3 qualities that make an herbalist, that make a great herbalist, Wow. Okay. So like I said, I'm a philosophical person, really. So I'm not going to go into practical things. It's not going to be an answer of the most likes, the best looking, the most funny, the most books, the loudest on forums. Instead, I think that we can, at least in my opinion, this is my opinion. Feel free, by the way, to disagree. It's okay. My opinion also doesn't reflect Herb Rally at all. Let's just make that. Everyone should know that, but you got to make things clear these days. So clear. Okay. I would say that the three most important qualities are remaining in honor. So what does that mean? Being able to have your claims challenged without making logical fallacies or having an emotional breakdown or something because your claims are attached to your identity, right? Being in honor, knowing when you're wrong, or accept it, or like wanting to be proven wrong so that your iron can be tempered, not making claims and then hiding from them. All right. That's not honorable at all. I see that so often in our field. Like I said, I got a little trigger about that. I think it's very unethical. I also think that it's honorable to when you do find out that you've been wrong about something, to make it very public that you were. And this is something I do a lot because I'm always changing my worldview and really sharpening it to become a very strong, consistent worldview that I can defend. And hopefully I'll be great someday. I think that I again, a little trigger was of mine is that those who I'd previously thought were great herbalists, I found out that were dishonorable, or this is the whole idolatry thing. Anyway, like I said, it's a philosophical question. I think that number two of what makes of the three qualities would be knowing a person that knows thyself, a person that knows themselves very, very well. They're tuned in. They can explain their ontology and their epistemology and their metaphysics and their ethics. They can defend them. They know their self. They know where they came from. They know where knowledge comes from, and they know the patterns that they recognize how to get it, and how to recreate it. And without having to, look in books, but instead recognize patterns. This is something I really try to teach, is pattern recognition. And I think it's really, really important for the student to be able to have their own pattern recognition as opposed to somebody else's. And I think the third one would be someone who has a deep relationship with the creator. That relation in service with the creator, and to the creator, and in service, therefore, to the creation. So let's just say God, creator, or whatever you want to call that which begets this material plane. And therefore, me in service to you, in service to all of the creation. I'm here to protect it. I'm here to work with it. I'm here to honor it. I see everything around me as intricate parts within a mind of a creator, and it all becomes holy. And I think that's a really, really, really important part to a great herbalist, is being able to recognize the abundance, not scarcity, abundance in everything, including hard lessons. The, being in service, knowing themselves, being in honor, dropping the victim mentality, and cultivating within your community, the people that you work with, the mindset that they don't need necessarily to rely on the herbalist. a lot of time, I tell my clients this, like, when we're all done here, you will have realized you actually didn't need me all along. I'm just going to teach you how you may heal yourself, and that you don't need these plants and you don't need me. And that the plants are there to help, but really the answer is within you all along. Might be controversial. Might be controversial to teach people that they actually have the power to heal themselves. I know it might be, but that's my opinion. Nimrod Diaries writes, my question: I feel my time is focused too much on herbs and not on anatomy and physiology. Where would you send someone to learn more about the human being, given the herbs to help them? I've really shifted my way of thinking a lot about biology and anatomy in the last few years. It's been a profound, eye-opening experience. And this is coupled with discernment, logic, scientific method, all these things, okay? And I love the frontier that's ahead in biology, what I call new biology. That a lot of it has to do with structuring water. This is something I work with really, really intensely, about structuring water. I have all different kinds of devices and things that I constantly tinker with, trying to find the most structured form of water and how I can put that into my medicine, how I can put that into my body, how I could structure my environment in my house with structuring water. So those key words, structured water, and how it relates to our anatomy and physiology, I think that would be a really good start. Dr. Tom Cowan, Dr. Andy Kaufman, let's see, Dr. Melissa Sell, of German New Biology, kind of a really interesting field of looking at things too. Dr. Bear Lando from Alpha Vedic, great in this field, this new biology. Topher Gardner, who is a massage therapist. And there's a woman named Veda Austin who's taken the work of Dr. Emoto, and makes really interesting pictures using structured water. I think that structuring water is the horizon and the new frontier of biology. It's very, very interesting. It's just that the old way of thinking about biology is really just crumbling when being applied to the scientific method and to people who understand logic and logical fallacies. So start there. Start with those that, Sally Fallon Morell, who wrote the book Nourishing Traditions and does a lot of work with the Weston Price Foundation. Is those types of things. I don't know so much about physiology with that, but runs with that crowd. Let's see here. That ought to be a good start. Who's that? What's that woman's name? Dr. Kelly Brogan. She's really interesting. She's a psychologist. So not so much about anatomy or physiology, but it really does help with integrating psychological aspects into that question too. So yeah, as for anatomy, physiology, start with Dr. Tom Cowan, Dr. Andy Kaufman, Dr. Bear Lando, and Dr. Melissa Sell. Great question. And good luck on that journey. It's going to be really fun, I promise.
And that's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the Herb Rally podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us here at Herb Rally, we now have a text message community, believe it or not. Basically, it's just updates from us. We send about 1 to 7 texts per week, notifying you about new events, videos, courses, podcasts. You get the idea. It's pretty much like our email newsletter, just in text form. So if you'd like to receive text messages from Herb Rally, just text JOIN, that's JOIN, to the number 541-256-2895. Again, that's JOIN to number 541-256-2895. And to stop receiving texts, that's easy too. Just text STOP to the same number. It'll opt you out immediately. Okay, thanks again for listening. Have a great rest of your day.